hydration. I am not feeling bonita today. I am not feeling it today, but I have not been able to be still. I've been observing myself lately and I am not be able to be just not doing something. Constantly trying to find something to do, constantly trying to figure out if I need to be doing some to-do lists in order to feel productive, and if I don't do it, I have a complete anxiety. The whole day, it's a mess. I feel like we're right now in the society of the fact that we are not just addicted to substances, we are addicted to activity. So just by being busy, by doing whatever it is, but just doing something instead of just being. And I noticed this in a much more pronounced way because I started to tell myself that I should spend less time on my phone. I did not like how much I'm spending on it. I did not like how much time I'm wasting, and then how I feel afterwards and how it just makes me feel in general. When I started to not use my phone as often, there is much more free time. But this free time, I feel like I constantly have to be occupying myself with something. But there is something to do, but also it somehow feels more overwhelming. But I feel like it's the fact that I'm detoxifying from the whole thing. I am pretty much going through withdrawal. Like if I were to be doing drugs. When you put the phone away, the nervous system doesn't just relax. It panics. It's looking for the next hit. It's like if you're a nicotine addict, you're like looking for your vape. It's exactly the same thing. It's not rest. It becomes stress. And I hate it because I'm trying to do something better for myself. And instead of actually making it better, I'm making it worse. And I'm starting to overthink much more. And I'm starting to get more anxious. And I've been anxious for the past week. Another thing is that our phones as a device, it's a distraction from the thoughts that we're having, from activities that we're supposed to be doing. It mutes boredom, it mutes intrusive thoughts, uncomfortable emotions. It's like a cushion on top of all of these problems. When you remove this cushion, it's just like you're hitting the rock hard floor. But it's honestly just all the stress that's already been there, that you haven't been thinking about, that you haven't been considering, that you haven't been really working through it. And if you put that into perception, it's not really a good thing. People struggle with anxiety without actually acknowledging where does that anxiety stem from, and they use distractions in order to kind of mute that feeling, but the anxiety still stays there because it's like the scratch at the back of your head that you can't really reach, you know? Another thing, there's time distortion. The phone used to chop up all these times into constant micro distractions, and now that there is full availability, without it, the free time just suddenly feels way too big, too empty, too raw. The unfamiliarity itself is stressful because I'm not practiced at handling open space. Honestly, I started to look into Reddit. I started to look into Reddit saying like, what am I supposed to do when I'm bored? Because when there is no dopamine hit, that means you're bored. That means you don't know what to do. I know in my previous podcast, I said that you need to embrace the fact that you're not doing anything. However, I'm also human. We're all trying something better for ourselves. Everyone have their own flaws. I am encouraging things that I'm also trying out. And by doing them, I am figuring out that it's damn hard and I can relate to you, to what you might be going through. And I don't want to be alone in that. And I started to search what to do. And it's just the most basic. Listen to some music, go for a walk, exercise a little bit, draw, find a hobby. And yes, you can do that and you can fill some time in, but there is still time that you're not doing something. What do you do with that time? If I am not doing something, I feel like I am completely wasting my time. I am completely useless. But when you use your phone, you don't feel like that because you're on your phone as though you're doing something useful, but you're not doing anything useful. You're just distracting yourself from actually doing anything beneficial. But you can't be doing beneficial things at all times. It's a constant loop. I still haven't figured out how to actually be beneficial to myself with the time that I have. To be at peace with myself when there is time available to me. Actually, if you don't use your phone, people that say that there is not enough time in a day, those are the people that use too much of social media and use too much technology in on their day-to-day basis. Because if you are not using your phone, if you're not on social media, boy, you will get tired from the day and you would want to sleep early because you're like, I had enough of today. It's been too long. Being face to face with yourself is a scary thing. They say being face to face with your problems is the scariest thing. I don't agree. Being face to face with yourself, that's something on a different level. You are the only person that know who you are. Even if you don't, but even your subconscious does. And that's why there's all of these problems psychologically, blah 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 blah. That's why people go to therapists because they can't access their subconscious, and I completely understand that. It takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort to be able to understand yourself, to be able to be at peace with yourself. But even if you're at peace, if you're already somewhat familiar with yourself, there are still things that make you feel that you don't know what's going on with you. Why we are addicted to being busy and terrified of stillness. First of all, I'm going to have a series of questions, and those series of questions we're going to answer together. If you're willing to answer it also in the comments, or one question out of all of the questions would be also nice. We'll be able to see what we're sharing together. There is body and feelings. What emotions show up in the first 30 seconds of stillness? So that means when you just sit down without having your phone, without having your laptop, without having anything, you're just sitting on the couch, you're just staring there like for 30 seconds. For me, it's quite easy to zone out. And I can zone out and just be there. But that's not exactly stillness. That's you just zoning out. That's your tuning out. So it's a bit different. But if you just sit there, I start to feel like, what to do next? Why am I just sitting here? Is this feeling of not understanding, of a little bit of confusion, I guess? But there is the follow-up question, which is, where does it feel in the body and what tasks do you grab to mute it? I feel it here in my chest a lot of the times, but I also feel a lot of it in my head. It's a lot of thoughts that are going through, but they're not exactly clear. They're a bit more jumbled up. What's in my head that is going on, that is rushing 100 miles per hour, but my chest, it's like it's also some sense of restlessness. It's a little bit heavy. And what tasks I would do, I would grab my phone. I would grab my phone straight away. I would try to search, go on social media, go on Instagram, go on Reddit, try to read, try to distract myself, watch some reels. And it worked a lot of the times that I didn't have to go through all of these feelings, because they're uncomfortable feelings. There are feelings that make you go like, ooh, I don't like it. But with the next section, which is identity and worth, is if you're not productive today, what do you believe that says about you? I mean, if it's just one day, it can't define me as a person. And it will not define me as a person in the future if it's just one day, right? If I were to be taken a month, that will be a completely different scenario, because in that case, that's just called pure laziness. But if it's one day, that means you're trying to take a rest. You're trying to make sure you're taking care of yourself. You're trying to make sure that you're not burnt out. But my problem is that if I'm trying to rest, I cannot rest. I feel guilty that I'm resting. Why am I resting when I can be doing something? If I have the time to be doing something, why do I not take the time to be doing something? Why am I not taking the time to be working? Why am I not taking the time to be doing my studies? Why am I not taking the time to be writing my essays? And the only time that I am not going through this guilt trip, if I'm actually either distracting myself, which is through my phone, or if I am doing actual work. You get what I mean. You get the gist. Whose approval are you auditioning for when you stay busy? Now, that's a good question, because this approval, a lot of the times, is from my own self. I am the one that is trying to prove to myself that I can do it, that I can continue, that I can battle through further, that I can grow, that I can accomplish new things. But there are times, if you you really listen to yourself closely, it can be your partner, it can be your parents. Your parents don't even live with you. Your parents are not even close to you. And in my case, if my parents call me, I do sometimes have this feeling that I should be doing something, but I feel like it's because I grew up when I used to not do something, not work, and not being productive and trying to rest. I was called out. In my family, whenever I'm being called or whatever, I usually try to not exactly pretend, because it would not be correct, because I am busy and I am a lot of the times occupied with work or with studies. But it's this sense of approval that they're like, oh, she's busy, she's actually doing stuff, she's not just being lazy. You know that you will not get any problems, you will not be told off, you will not be told like, oh, why are you not doing anything useful with your time? Like, why? You don't want to hear it. It's not that it matters, it's more that you don't want to hear it. It's the additional layer that you need to hear, that you need to process, that you need to talk about, it's just additional time, additional things that you already heard 100 times and you don't want to go through it. For example, your partner is just, you don't want to disappoint. You don't want to disappoint that you're doing your work, such as for me right now is content, right? You don't want to disappoint that I decided to do this and I am not being committed, that I am just slacking off and I'm not doing anything about it. However, I am trying to come up with the content. I am trying to organize my content. I'm trying to write it all out. I'm trying to make sure that things are coherent and that I am able to talk about the things that matter to me. Not exactly always relevant, but I feel like it's an interesting topic to be talked about. It can be relevant with time. All these things, they require time. However, I'm also studying at the same time, and studies do take up quite a bit, especially for sciences such as psychology. I am taking Bachelor of Science, so it's not just Bachelor of Arts that is surface level of things. It's more depth, it's statistics, it's the whole shenanigans with it. I am really glad that my university is able to provide me with the chance that I can study online, and I am blessed that all of the lectures are recorded and I can watch it at my own pace, at my own time. There are deadlines for my essays and for my work and everything. However, the content should be learned and it should be studied still. Okay, I'm coming back to the question. With all of these things me personally, I understand that I have all of these things to be done and all of these things are equally important to be done. I need to also dedicate some time to rest. However, whenever I rest, it just seems like I am not taking the opportunity to be doing more. It's a vicious cycle. Feeling inside of you're like eating away at yourself. Like you don't understand if you're doing enough, if you're not doing enough, if you're doing just fine, if you are a little bit behind. I started making plans. And why this topic is so relevant right now, it's because as soon as I started to make plans, for example, I have a calendar, like a weekly calendar. I try it on a weekly basis, write down all the plans that I should be doing a week ahead. Never works. It never works. I don't even know what's gonna be tomorrow. Why would I be writing for the next 6 days? Why would I do that? It was the dumbest idea. After 1 week, I realized that it's not for me to be writing a week ahead of what my plans might be. I don't know how I will be feeling tomorrow. If I'm feeling not exactly in the mood to be doing, for example, content, but I'm in the mood to be studying, then I will switch it up. I will not be forcing myself to be doing content. You understand what I mean, right? So I started to write down before I go to sleep, like an hour before I go to sleep, I started to write down my plans for tomorrow. Or in the next day, in the morning, I sit down and I write down the plan that I have for the day, which has been much more successful any other way that I've done it. I started to write plans that I think that I am trying to be an overachiever. And I am not. I'm writing too many things. And because of that, I feel like I'm making myself anxious. Sometimes this anxiety ends up in me not doing anything at all because I freeze in not being able to figure out what I should be doing actually. It's a horrible loop to be stuck in, but in order to get out of that horrible loop, you need to ensure that you start doing at least something. And for me, when I realize that I'm frozen, what I try to do is try to read a book. Not something on the phone or on the computer, but a book. To pick up up a book and read it, because that is, as they call it, the slow dopamine, because you need to concentrate, you need to ensure that you are doing it on the basis, try to understand the content. And when I started doing that, I was able to regain the focus and regain like this little bit of dopamine that I am actually doing something, and then able to decide the next task that I'm doing. However, I used to be the person that did not really care about how my day goes. I would just like wake up and see how my day is gone. I will just wing it, because I had a period of time when I would write down what I have to do in the day, and I would not accomplish one thing out of the list. I would give up. I would genuinely give up, and then I would get pissed, and then I would not be able to do it for the next day, and I would just I just said, why am I creating this external pressure on myself? That's literally a reason, because you are not familiar with your own strengths and your own weaknesses, and you have to analyze what are they in order to be able to produce any work that is to the standard that you're working at. But since I used to be that person, but over the time I was able to realize what needed to be done, how it's supposed to be done. Right now, I became that person that writes things and plans out my day ahead. It's been good, but it's again giving me anxiety. You can never win. Maybe it's because I'm not used to trying to constantly engage myself in activities at the full extent that I am giving myself now. Like my strengths right now have increased if you compare it to the times that I used to be more free-willed. What I am doing to myself right now is I am overloading on tasks. Maybe I should be more observant at what I'm doing. Maybe instead of like 5 tasks, I do 4 or 3 and see how I feel then. You see, you need to experiment with those things. If you're not experimenting, then you will not be able to find out what's the best suit for you. So I'm still on the journey to be able to find out what's the best for me, and also replacing that time of distraction of my phone to be able to use my brain more. I just feel like the social media makes you so dumb. It makes so many people so dumb. I want to expand my knowledge. I want to expand my abilities to be more communicative, to be more open-minded, to have growth mindset. So the next section, it is control and safety. Does busyness function as anxiety management? It for sure does. Staying busy, it allows you to not exactly think of the things that are bothering you, are upsetting you, or even making you forget the void that you're sometimes feeling inside. It definitely acts as a self-defense to not be able to harm yourself. And I mean harm yourself in a way that it's by overthinking, by producing scenarios that are not exactly going to happen. And I think that goes with a little bit of a confusion that happens in our heads. It's like when we're unclear on where we're headed, it's easier to fill our plates than to sit with discomfort of not knowing. So if you're sitting there and you don't really know where your life is headed at, it's better to stay busy so you're not exactly focused on that matter. Doing more becomes a way to avoid the real work of figuring out what truly needs to be done in your life, how to improve your life, because it's actually a tremendous work, and our brain by biology is very lazy. It's a very lazy creature. It hates work. It will avoid work at all times. It will avoid doing anything. It wants to do the bare minimum. It wants to preserve the energy for functioning of its own bodily functions, let's say. However, it's not the way. That's not how we have built our society. It's not how we have built ourselves as personas. We have cognitive abilities, thoughts, and culture, and that's why we're striving to have more. We don't only have the primal and base needs such as animals, like dogs, for example. It's that they need to have food, shelter, and to be able to sleep and be able to be safe. That's our basic needs. That's just the base of the base. And then we created the other needs that we also need to be fulfilled. This is from psychology. The Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's a motivational theory outlining 5 levels of human needs that individuals must meet to achieve fulfillment, presented as a pyramid from most basic to most complex. We have self-actualization. It's the desire to become the most that one can be. It's like you are becoming the best version of yourself. And that's very subjective because it's super broad. It's what you're capable of. It depends on your talents, your value, your culture, and your opportunities of where you're born, how you're born, what you've been given, how you've been given. It all matters. Then there's also perspective. It looks different for everyone. For one person, self-actualization might mean writing novels, and for the other person is acting. The other person is just, selling cucumbers on the street. Depends on your values. For another, it can be, it's raising kids, building a company, mastering a craft, or living in alignment with faith. It's so broad, but we have made this into something that we strive into. If you look at social media, people are like, oh, become the best version of yourself, become this, become that. But what you think is the best version of yourself, it's aligned to you, but there's a propaganda of the best version of yourself that you have to be waking up at this time, doing this, having this much money, doing all of these things. But it's just one type of living. It doesn't consider all the other types of living and all the opportunities that are being given at hand. Just to, let's say, summarize the key points, we use schedule as armor. Everyone overloads themselves differently, right? Everyone have their own type of schema that they're doing, how they would like to use their shield. There's work meetings, classes, errands, side hustles, social plans. And it's not really about what fills the time. It's about why we can't leave it empty. And you need to question yourself, why can you not leave it empty? What is the issue? What is behind all of these unbearable thoughts? What is your subconscious trying to tell you with all of this? If you use the shield long enough, it will not be able to be big enough in the future with all of the overthinking and all of the tasks that you're trying to put on yourself. Then we have this idea that our worth is tied to output. Rest feels like identity loss. Whether you're a student, worker, parent, or creator, if your worth equals output, stillness feels like you're disappearing. So if you're not doing constantly something that what defines you, it feels like a part of you is missing, but it's just a part of you. You're still that person. You need to remind yourself, you need to constantly remind yourself that just because you're not continuously at all times doing a certain task doesn't mean it's not a part of you. It's going to be always part of you. If you have started it, if you have done it in a prolonged time, it is already you. You need to remind yourself more often that a break or some time off or a shift can actually benefit you in your creativity and in your work, because it's like the second breath that you are able to put a different perspective into your work or into, for example, parenting or whatever it is. Now, another thing that we need to remind ourselves that control is illusion. These micro tasks that give us the microscopic wins, instead of doing the big task that we have set for ourselves, for example, we have to finish this essay. We end up, we call it differently as well by calling it procrastination. It also gives you dopamine, but not useful dopamine. It's like you're scrolling social media instead of doing your work, and you go and do dishes, you go and mop the floor, and you're still prolonging the process of writing that essay, of writing that email, writing that report. You're still prolonging the process, but you're giving yourself those micro wins. It gives you the illusion of control. You are not in control. You are far from control, because what needs to be done is still at the back of your head, is still giving you uncomfortable feeling of you will need to come back to it. So it doesn't matter. Micro wins give you the illusion of control, but the bigger, scarier priorities, they starve. They become even bigger. They become even more problematic. And in the end, you stress even more. Why do you make yourself stress twice? You're just making yourself more grayer than you already are. Chillax. We have another point, is that low impact busyness in order to dodge high uncertainty work. Have you noticed that all the low impact work that you're doing, answering an email, doing some chores, doing this, doing that, it's something that is so predictable. You know the outcome. Now, if it's something that doing a project, writing to a publisher that you don't know the answer to, or writing writing an essay that will be your final grade. It gives you certain uncertainty, but because of that, it makes you worried that it will not work out. You already think to yourself, oh, it's not going to work, so why should I be trying right now? So I would rather reward myself with tasks that are actually meaningless, but they bring some emotions to me regardless, but I know the outcome. The more you hide, the more behind you are. Put yourself out there. The uncertainty is what going to make you find out more about yourself. It's going to open up the pathways that you still haven't unlocked. Open the doors that are still closed. Open the door. But you can knock and they will probably be open. Open the door. There is no locks in them. You just haven't tried to open them. And last but not least is existential dodge. Motion shields from questions about meaning, grief, endings. Stillness forces everyone, no matter their role, to confront meaning, grief, boredom, mortality, so we keep moving. Stillness holds really big questions. It holds the problems that we face on a daily basis. It holds the grander meanings of our life that we are not ready to confront at times, because it takes a lot of courage for us to find out about the truth, because truth is heavier than a sweet lie. Give yourself the opportunity to find out the meaning to what you enjoy, to yourself, to your self-actualization. What does self-actualization mean to you? I think we're living in the world where, if you like it or not, we're kind of gonna be kind of addicted to being busy, and quite frankly terrified of stillness because of the way that society is right now is built, and I'm scared of what's going to be in the future, what it is going to be. But we need to find balance, and we gotta start paying attention to what we're paying attention to. Is it worth paying attention to whatever we're paying attention to? You gotta start reclaiming your attention, because right now, with the way that social media is giving us dopamine hits, that attention span and the rate of ADHD is through the roof. There is not gonna be anyone else other than ourselves that are trying to work it out, what's going to work for us and what's not going to work for us. It's work. Yet again, we're trying to stay busy, but it's something that is useful to us. We can work on it, but be still, because this stillness will provide inner peace that we will not be moved when the storm comes.